thank you. That really, you're going to make me cry. Gosh. So I see many familiar faces out there, but I see people also that I've not met before. So I hope if I have not met you and shaken your hand, I hope you will make a point of coming up to me and introducing yourself so I can get to know you a little bit. And I will apologize in advance. I'm very bad at remembering names, but I do remember faces really well. So if it's good if you just hold your name tag right like this, and I won't be embarrassed. But please come and introduce yourself. I want to meet everybody who's here. I want to say also, I am so proud of Veterans for Peace, and I am so very proud to be your president. And I can't tell you how much it meant to me. The reception that you just gave me makes me feel very, very gratified and honored to receive that kind of support. And just as you have just shown me support, Veterans for Peace, and I don't have to tell you this, we are a widely respected organization. We've been around for a long time. Phil Donahue last night went on and on about how we are respected, we are admired, we walk the walk, we don't just talk. And so it's so important for us to claim that and use that advantage or that authority that we have. But I'm not going to go on and on about how great we are and pat ourselves on the back, because there is so much work to be done. Our job is so big that we can't sit back and say, oh, we're doing great. As you all know, we are on the verge of 2 more wars, in addition to the ones we're already involved in. There's always more to be done, and we have to think of ways we can be more effective. So how can we be better? Our job, our overall goal is such a huge one, to end war. That is our overall overreaching mission, to end war, to abolish war as an instrument of national policy. And there's no one right answer. If there were, we would have found it a long time ago. But you have to build a strategy, and you have to have multiple tactics to accomplish that strategy. And you're going to hear that word strategy used many times during the convention this week, because the board has realized for some time that we need to have a strategic plan. We need to define a way forward in very specific terms, what our goals are and our strategy, how do we get there, and how do we get there are the tactics. And I think many times people confuse the two, and they think if we just organize the perfect protest, then that will do it. But it's not, real activism, real organizing, real accomplishment of the mission is not just a series of protests. We have to attack this huge problem from all different angles, and we have to maximize our effect. So the way I have been looking at why war is wrong, why do we want to end war? And I think in thinking about war in this way of what is wrong with it can help us figure out strategies to attack it, to end it. And I have my 4 points that I've thought about, and there may be others, but I think these are the 4 basic ones. War is immoral. And that for that reason alone, it should not happen. We know that. This audience understands that it is immoral to kill innocent people. It is immoral. Howard Zinn, the late, great Howard Zinn, Presente, member of Veterans for Peace, said, "There is no flag large enough to cover the shame of killing innocent people." And that's exactly right. And we know that. So we understand the moral implications of war. There is no flag, there is no reason large enough, certainly not the American way of life, as reason to justify killing innocent people. So that's the number one way we can use our voices to oppose war, to talk about how immoral it is. It's illegal. The conflicts that we are involved in now violate international law. They violate our Constitution in many, many ways. Just the fact that we are waging wars of aggression, wars of choice, this is the most heinous crime there is. And we are involved in not one, but two, but three attacks, more and more and more, unwarranted, unauthorized, illegal attacks on sovereign nations. And not only do we attack sovereign nations illegally, but we use illegal weapons that violate international law. We use a depleted uranium. We use Agent Orange. We use cluster bombs and landmines. These things are prohibited by international law, by the Geneva Conventions. So we can use our veterans' voice to talk about the illegality of war. So it's immoral and it's illegal. It's ineffective. It doesn't work. And that it should be a big reason. And we can talk about that. And as veterans, as people, as human beings, we know that war does not work. War perpetuates war. And the government wants to keep that perpetual motion machine going because they profit from it. And we know that, and I won't get into all the reasons about the military-industrial congressional media complex that, they're all hooked together in this huge, enormous ball of problem. But it is ineffective. It does not accomplish its goal of whatever whatever false reason we come up for waging war in the first place. It never accomplishes it. And the last reason I've identified about why war is wrong is because it costs too damn much. It costs too much in lives, of course, and we've talked about that, but it costs too much in dollars spent that could have been spent helping people, uplifting people, housing, health care, jobs. That's what we want, that's what we deserve, and in a country this strong and this powerful and this rich, nobody should be going hungry at night, nobody should be sleeping in the streets, and we have the money. Another hero of mine, Marion Wright Edelman, says, we don't have a money problem in America. We got plenty of money. We have a values and priorities problem in America. But it's not the American people that have a problem with their values. It's the government and this big machine that has the problem with the values. And I often quote this study that's done by the University of Chicago at the National Opinion Research Center. It's done every year, and it polls American citizens about 22 categories of federal spending, and it has the citizens rank them on how they would like to have their money spent and whether we think we should spend more or less on these different areas. And ever since they've started this survey for over 20 years, 25 plus years, I believe, the number one and number two items that people want their money spent on are, tell me, healthcare and education. Exactly. I have never spoken to an audience that got it wrong. That's because we know what we want. Our values and priorities are in the right place. Healthcare and education. Now, what they call defense, and we know isn't anything about defense, but what they call defense comes in at not even the top 10, not even the top 15, but number 18 out of 22. 18 out of 22. Now, our priorities are in the right place. And we have been saying, in the wars, tax the rich, that's how you fix the deficit. But the government and the big military, industrial, media, congressional ball will have you believe that that can't happen. We are all going to die, and what horrible things will happen if we did that. So we have to use our voice to talk about not just the human cost, but the cost in dollars spent that could have been spent on what we want and need. So those are the 4 areas of why war is wrong, and it can help us strategize about how to attack it. Now, how do we step it up as Veterans for Peace? How do we start attacking these 4 areas? Number 1 is, I think, we need to really play to what is unique about Veterans for Peace. We are the only veterans organization. We are the only veterans organization that calls for an end to war, period. We're the only one. Other organizations like IAVA, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, Paul Rykoff is their ED, and you probably would recognize him because he's on television all the time. They have a multi-million-dollar budget. They have 37 people on staff in Washington, D.C., and they have direct access into every congressional office there is, including a meeting with the president. So I say Veterans for Peace should do what Veterans for Peace it's unique to us, ending war. That's because we're the only one that's saying it. And we should let IAVA, with their multi-million-dollar budget and their access, advocate for VA benefits, which are very important. We know that. Let them advocate for funding for hospitals and education for veterans. Let them do that. That's what they do well. That's the easy job because it's not controversial. What we need to do is the hard work, the things that aren't popular. And I'll read you a short section, and I meant to bring the book, but Jerry Genesio, our founder, wrote a book about the first 10 years of VFP's history, and I encourage you to read it. It's a wonderful chronicle of Veterans for Peace. But very shortly, I'm going to read a couple sentences. He was talking about when they were trying to decide the priorities for the organization and develop their statement of purpose. He says, during our meetings, we also agreed that the American Legion, VFW, DAV, AMVETS, VVA, and other traditional U.S. military veterans organizations were very effectively advocating for veterans' benefits without our assistance. And we decided that we should devote our very limited resources to achieving more selfless and therefore much less popular objectives. Addressing veterans' problems was also dropped from the list. You know, our statement of purpose, which has 5 points to it, I think it's the third one that says seek justice for veterans and other victims of war. The seek justice for veterans part wasn't in the beginning. And I'm not sure, maybe somebody here can tell me when that was added, but that was not part of the original statement of purpose. So I think that's number 1. What we need to do is focus in on what we do, what is special to us, what is unique to us. And as Veterans for Peace, we speak to all those reasons why war is wrong that I mentioned before. The second thing I think we need to do is step out of our comfort zone. You know, last night we saw the story of Thomas Young, and some of us have seen it before, and it is very, very powerful. And we just heard from the Arrendandos, and I cannot know. Well, you know, I cannot imagine telling my story over and over again like that. It has got to be so painful and so difficult. My brother committed suicide many years ago, and I don't like to talk about it. It is painful for me. But Carlos and Melida understand that the hard stories to tell are the ones that people really need to hear. And so they do the hard work. They step out of their comfort zone and they tell the stories over and over again, just like the Lucys. And every time I hear the Lucys speak, I break down, just like I'd heard the story the first time. It is powerful. But you know that you have to use that power, and we all have that power. And if you were a combat veteran and you saw and did things that upset you to think about, I'm asking you to go to that place and to use that power that upsets you, because that is what people need to hear. That's what people need to see and hear and understand the real truth of war. And now I was not in combat, So I can't speak to that. I can only tell stories that I've heard. But we all need to use our voices in every way we can. And if we are family members or we know stories that we can relate, we've got to stand up and use that power that we have and not be afraid of going into harm's way ourselves emotionally. Now, many of you fought in combat and you risked your lives, your physical bodies. You put yourself in harm's way. Some of you were drafted and some of you went willingly, but you risked your life for war. What are we risking for peace? What are we willing to risk for peace? What are we willing to stand up for? Are we willing to risk our liberty? Are we willing to risk embarrassment? Are we willing to risk notoriety? Everybody has different struggles, but I'm asking you to step out of what is comfortable for you. Are we having an earthquake? My God, this thing is, okay. Maybe I'm shaking with I am very passionate, I'm sorry. But we have to do the hard thing. And I talked with some veterans in Los Angeles. I was just there a few days ago. And they said, this one fellow is a Vietnam veteran, and he said, that one thing their chapter does is they provide scholarships for high school students. And I think that's so wonderful. But those scholarships are awarded to high school students for poetry or writing or work that these high school students did in the name of peace. Well, that's wonderful, but that does nothing to uplift the veteran's voice. And I said, well, do you speak? And he, well, I don't like to speak, he says. Well, I don't think that's good enough. And I think we need to be more than carrying banners in parades. We have to be more than just talking to the choir. We have to step out and do the things that are difficult for us to do and push ourselves. So I also... I'm going to skip some of what else I was intending to say, and because I know we're running quite late. I think one of the things that I'd like to see Veterans for Peace do more often is take the lead. Instead of endorsing an action that Code Pink has organized or Peace Action has organized, and we endorse these kinds of things all the time, I want to see us planning the action or initiating the letter or the lobby visit and having others join us to follow us. Because I tell you, I get this all the time. People want to know, what do Veterans for Peace think about this? And they want to follow us. We've got to step up. We've got to step up and be the leaders. And I tell you, they will follow us. We've got to step up and not wait for others, and not wait for that protest or that letter writing campaign or that sit-in. We have to be the ones. Okay. I watched that film last night, and there's so many powerful parts to it, but the one thing that really, really got me was Senator Byrd just beseeching the American public, speaking from the well of the Senate floor, saying, please go protest, go raise your voices, be heard, tell them. And we did. We did. Millions of people all over the world were in the streets. We did. But where are the same voices now about Iran and Syria? We're not speaking out the way we should be. We're not leading the way. And I want, if we started bombing Iran tomorrow, and I would think to myself, what did Veterans for Peace do to prevent this? And I'm afraid I would be quite ashamed that we have not done nearly enough. We've put out a statement, but we've got to start thinking about preventing war and ending war. Those are our two big things that we want to do. So it's not enough. Like I said, it's not enough to carry a banner in a Veterans Day parade. It's not about us. It's not about honoring us. It's about ending war, opposing the violence, opposing the militarism, and speaking up for humanity. So With that, I think I'd like to do the Presente list. Some of you may, I'll start off with someone that you may not have heard recently passed away just a couple of days ago. So I will say the name and the word Presente, and then you will all say Presente. Daniel Fern, Presente.
Presente.
Paul Brailsford, Presente.
Presente.
Del Shirley, Presente.
Presente.
Tom Sturdivant, Presente.
Presente.
Arch Wilson, Presente.
Presente.
Babatunde Foloyeme, Presente.
Presente.
Jim Goodnow, Presente.
Presente.
Marv Davidoff, Presente.
Presente.
John Gilman, Presente.
Presente.
David Bush, Presente.
Presente.
Duncan Murphy, Presente.
Presente.
John Downs, Presente.
Presente.
Paul Fussell, Presente.
Presente.
Hugh Bruce, Presente.
Presente.
Jim Mearns, Presente.
Presente.
Richard Townsend, Presente.
Presente.
Ed Clark, Presente.
Presente.
Richard Campbell, Presente.
Presente.
Marty Acker, Presente.
Presente.
Frank Mazurkowitz, Presente. Thomas Lloyd, Presente.
Presente.
Jack Manassian, Presente.
Presente.
Bill Small, Presente.
Presente.
Stair Dickerman, Presente.
Presente.
I said Jim. Jim. How do you spell the last? Tim Heide, Presente.
Presente.
John Massey, associate member.
John Massey, Presente.
Presente. Antonio de Miguel Sánchez.
Presente.
Charles Willett.
Presente.
Dan Mazzo.
Presente. Thank you, brothers and sisters. It's an honor to be here with you. Thank you very much.